Hi guys, Tracy here. I'm just scrapbooking my second layout with the kit that I created from a bunch of leftovers from other kits and collections. So if you missed the making of this kit, you can check it out in the information section below. There's a link to the video. And I'm about to scrapbook the next photo, and which I haven't actually picked out yet. I've just kind of decided to do another page here. And before I did so, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how I chose the items for the kit. It occurred to me after I had given it some thought that I'm not entirely sure if I mentioned. I know that I talked a lot while I was picking out my kit, but I'm not sure if I mentioned why I picked what I picked. And so I thought I would just go back and cover that just in case I didn't do a good job. I don't typically watch my videos after I post them. I just kind of post them and delete them. I figured rather than going back and listening to the whole thing again, I would just do, it probably wouldn't hurt to just do a little recap here of the principles that I used for choosing a kit. The first principle that I used was things that I loved but didn't get to use. So there were some papers that came in the kits, like this one, and some embellishments that I absolutely loved and just didn't get a chance to use, like these letter stickers and these cute little tassels, which I have been using, but I still had some left and I wanted to make sure that I got them used. So the first principle for this kit in particular was things that I love. I just want to make sure that all of my favorite things get on my pages instead of staying in this drawer. So this is kind of like one last ditch opportunity to get some things into my albums before I move on to a new set of items that are coming into my scrap room. My very first principle is things that I love in this kind of a kit. There is no point in scrapbooking with things that you don't love. There's also no point in hanging on to things that you do love. So that is the principle behind things that I loved but didn't get to use. The second principle that I use for choosing things for this kit is colors that would go with one or some of the photos that I might scrap. So I try when I'm making a kit, whether it's a kit for taking to a crop or a kit like this where I just plan to use it this weekend. So I like to have at least a sense of what photos I'm going to be scrapbooking. And in my kit video, I did show you that I had these photos picked out. So I went through all of my recent photos and I just picked and favorited a few of them, and then I selected them and put them into an album so that they're separate. So I kept these photos in mind as I was picking the papers and embellishments at the beginning. And I was thinking about color primarily, and then I also, the third point on here is that I think thematically. So a good example of that is the coffee stickers that I picked at the last minute, and I can't find them now. Here they are. These coffee puffy stickers from Freckled Fawn. I mean, they are the right colors, but they didn't really speak to me until I realized, oh, they're coffee stickers. So I do have a picture of coffee in as one of the photos that I'm potentially scrapbooking, and so they might very well come in handy. So those are my three guiding principles for choosing items for my kit. And then there are certain things that I like to have in all of my stash kits. So I always like to have thickers or some equivalent type of, it doesn't have to be the thickers brand, but I want to have some title stickers. And I usually want to have more options than what I think I will need. So in this case, for example, I have these. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different options for title letters, and that feels comfortable to me for making two layouts, because that means that I can mix and match if I want to, like I did with my first project where I mixed these two. And it means that I've just got some options. I have a colored one and I have some neutral ones that and these and these I can personalize if I wanted them to be colored. Now, of course I can go into my stash. My letter stickers are literally right over there, like 2 feet away from me. So I can very easily go into my stash if I want to, but the purpose of pulling a kit is so that I don't I don't have to. I can use what I've got here to get me going. And then if I get really stuck and think, oh my gosh, I just wish I had a different kind of sticker for this, I can just go into my stash and get it. It's not a huge deal. But for the most part, once I pick a kit like this, I'm able to stay into it. But the idea here is that the kit is supposed to facilitate you scrapping. It's not supposed to get in the way. So if you've chosen a kit and you feel like, oh, I didn't pick the right things, just go get more stuff. It's okay. Or trade them out. So, okay, I got off track here, but what I'm talking about is what I like my my kits to include. So I like them to include some titling letter stickers. I like them to include some pattern paper. And when I'm picking my pattern paper, I like to think about scale. So I like some large scale and some small scale and some medium scale too, if I'm thinking that way. I like to have a combination of floral and geometric and classic. So floral would be something like this. So anything botanical and natural and flowy looking. And then geometric would be something like this pattern, or sometimes I'll pick something with triangles or just like with strong lines on it. Like this one, for example, is what I would consider geometric. And then for classic, I consider classic to be anything like stripes like this, polka dots, chevrons, and yeah, those would be my classics. So these two here would be examples of some classics. And for scale, I guess if we're talking about scale, like this would be considered a large scale and this would be a small scale. This floral I consider to be a medium scale. It's all relative, right? These patterns all right here are small scale because they're shrunken down into little tiny squares. And then this would be a large scale polka dot, as opposed to this would be, I guess, maybe a medium scale polka dot. And then this would be a small scale polka dot. Oh, look at that. I have examples of all three scales in my kit. Isn't that nice? For demonstration purposes. I did not plan it that way, but I think that some of it, and here's another, I guess this would be considered a small scale polka dot too, or maybe a medium scale. Right, so I'm getting ahead of myself. So things that I like all my stash kits to include: thickers, some pattern paper. Of course, pattern paper is like the bread and butter of scrapbooking. Then I like to have some cardstock for matting or for backgrounds or whatever. And I like to have some paper or sticker embellishments. So I think of embellishments as roughly falling into two categories: my flat embellishments and then my dimensional embellishments. So I like to have paper or sticker embellishments, either a set of die cuts or a set of flat stickers. And then I also like to have dimensional embellishments. So in this case, if you excuse this wad of washi tape I didn't use, these would be my dimensional embellishments. Usually go in a tray like this, anything with texture and dimension that stands up off of the page. Puffy stickers are dimensional embellishments as well, in my opinion. And then my flat embellishments include these labels, these cut aparts, and any die cuts that I might have picked. Now, I didn't pick die cuts this time. I'm just sticking with stickers and maybe punches and like punching out some shapes and that sort of thing. These letter stickers are actually not part of my stash kit, so I'm going to put those back. I just pulled those out. So those are the things that I like to include in all of my stash kits, and everybody's different. You might have different things. There might be an overlap. You might include things that I don't include or not include things that I do include. Like, for example, if you keep all of your thickers all in one place, you really don't have to pick out thickers for a project for a kit like this, especially if it's a kit that you're using in your own scrap room. So it's different if you're going out, then it becomes more essential that you pick your thickers. But my thickers are kept in a Razcog cart that I can literally roll right up to beside my desk and root through, find the stickers I want. But I do still like to narrow it down and have some thickers on hand in my stash kit, just so that I can not have to think so hard when it comes to picking my letters. And like I said, I am flexible about that. I might go back into my stash and get extra thickers or do some switches. I typically don't draw on extra paper because I tend to pick a whole bunch of paper. So chances are my needs are going to be met for paper and cardstock and the other things on my list. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about was things that I prefer to not have in my stash kit, but I'd rather just grab them from my stash. And so this would be different if I was scrapbooking out of my home. So if I was going to a crop, I might need to bring these things, even though I'd rather not have them be in a kit. So things that I like to grab from my stash are small letter stickers. So lately I've been really drawing on these mini market letter stickers. And to a lesser extent, the sticky keys. And I have a big stack of them, and if I'm not, and I also have a basket where I keep my non-mini market small letter stickers, and I just find that I like to have the option to pick any color depending on the way the layout is going, and rather than grab like 10 or 12 of these, I might as well just leave them all in a pile and just draw on them as needed. And I don't always use them on every layout either, meaning I don't always use small letter stickers on every layout. So it's the kind of thing that it would take so much time to pick, and I might end up not liking the ones that I picked and pick something different anyways, or not using them at all. So I might as well just leave them in a pile over on the other side of my desk, and I can always bring them over and get them if I need to. So in my first layout, you saw me do that. I went and got these and picked the color that I wanted. Another thing that I often will not put in a kit and draw from my stash instead for is wood veneer. And again, it's sort of like if I have a convenient and efficient way of storing it, there's no need for me to, for example, I keep my wood veneers in these little stackable cases that you can get at Michael's in sets of 2, and they come with 2 lids, but if you stack them like this, you really only need 1 lid on each tower that you make. What I typically do with wood veneers, rather than going through and saying, oh, I might want some stars, and I might want some clouds, and I might want some hearts, and then I put them all in this, and then at the end, all my leftovers, I have to go and put them all back in this. That doesn't make any sense for me. That's not making my scrapbooking more efficient. That's making my scrapbooking more cumbersome. And so the purpose of these kits is to facilitate me scrapbooking with ease. And so it's better for me to just leave this stuff in these. And that's why when I go to crops, I usually will just put these in my bag. If I at all have room, I would rather just bring these with me than have to sort out and decide on which wood veneers to bring, because wood veneers are so specific, like there's so many options. Mixed media items is another thing. I may use it, I may not use it, and to go to all the trouble of picking them out, it's just not worth it for me. If I want to do mixed media, I'll just do it and decide in the moment. Washi tape is another thing, kind of like wood veneers. I have a whole bunch of them. They're all stored. It's called Craft Stack, and it has these little drawers that go out, and the washi tape fits in it quite nicely. And so there's no point in me bringing over like 3 or 4 rolls of washi that I may or may not use. I'm just going to leave them there. Stamps is another thing that I am not great at using stamps on my layouts, so there's no point in me picking them out. I find that when I pick them out, I never end up using them. Punches and tools is another thing that I just keep it where it belongs, and then I'll just go get it if I need it. Again, this would be very different if I was cropping, if I was going to a crop and scrapbooking outside of my own home. So then I just have an asterisk here that says, unless there is something in particular that I really want to be sure to use. So for example, there might be a time when I've had something like a punch, for example, that I keep saying, oh, I have to remember to use that punch. And having it in my kit is a really great way to remind me to use it. Same thing goes with certain stamps or certain washi tape or certain anything. So those are my 3 sets of thoughts on making a kit. I hope that you found that helpful. And now I'm going to go and do a layout. And I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know what picture I'm using, but I guess I have to start by choosing a picture because that's the way I usually go. So I will put you on fast forward and talk you through that process. Well, it looks like I just talked for 18 minutes about this, which is enough to make it a video of its own. So you'll have to check out this process video if you're interested in seeing it. Check it out on my channel. It should be the next one there. So thanks so much for watching and have a great scrappy week.